Hello and welcome to the Business of Story. I'm your host, Park Howell, and I am so proud to welcome Sendible as our sponsor. Sendible is the social media management platform that I personally prefer to handle all of our storytelling online. Sendible has generously offered you, an ardent Business of Story listener, an incredible 30% discount on their traction plan. It's normally $99 a month, but if you use my link, you can get it for just $69 a month. So visit sendible.com/park30 to start your free 30-day trial today.
I thought it was just a stupid picture of a pig in the ocean. But after hearing that story, I had to have it. Now I wasn't just buying a picture. I was buying a story. Story literally made the picture worth more money to me.
That's what businesses are about. People buy brands. People buy stories much more than anything else.
I work with a lot of big enterprise companies, but let's just say I always tell folks, drop the PowerPoint, close your laptops, start with your story.
If you want people to get engaged and you want people to act, you have to tell them an emotionally powerful story. That's with great characters, it's with uncertain outcomes, and it's with high stakes and drama.
All business strategy is a story.
Hi, and welcome back to the Business of Story. I'm Park Howell, and I am so glad you're here because you are going to meet two of the most special, amazing people I have ever come across in my world of brand storytelling. They have a really fascinating origin story for a new product that they had to create completely out of necessity. It's an all-natural supplement to help support a healthy immune system for seasonal wellness. Now, I have to say seasonal wellness because it's legal marketing speak for, you guessed it, allergy season. But because this is a supplement, the FDA won't allow us to say the A word. So I'm using it here to simply clear any mental mucus you might have about what I'm actually talking about. You see, we helped our guests, the healthcare wife and husband team of Avni and Dr. Shyam Shridharani, Avni, an accomplished public health professional, and Shyam, an internationally renowned spinal surgeon, craft their brand story strategy for their new product. This included brand positioning, naming, and packaging, and we called it Heirloom, AIRLOOM. You will be blown away by the product's fascinating origin story. How out of heartfelt desperation, Shyam created the formula to help Avni overcome her debilitating seasonal distress. Yeah, allergies. When traditional medicine may have been doing more harm than good for her. This is one of the most powerful brand origin stories I have ever been associated with. But it has taken a few years to reveal it to the world. You, along with the rest of our listeners, will hear it for the very first time today, and you'll learn why they were reticent to share it, even though it may have led to significant sales of their new heirloom product. Plus, it's a marvelous example for you of how to use an origin story to power your own brand work. But I need to make this disclaimer before we move on, just in case the FDA is listening. Please remember that these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration, and this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But their origin story is definitely told to help you inhale a healthy dose of life again. With that, let's step into the health and wellness worlds of Avni and Dr. Shyam Shridharani. Shyam, Avni, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It's so great. We got acquainted, about 2, maybe 3 years ago from our good friend Avin Tafoya over at Adelante Healthcare.
Yeah, it's been about almost 3 years that we've known each other and we've been working together.
And I got to tell you, listeners, had you been there, we went to dinner one night, Michelle and I, with these two, and they had to literally throw us out of the restaurant, I think, because the stories kept going for hours and hours and hours, and it was so much fun. So it's so great to have you here on the show because you have an amazing story about a incredible product that you brought online for the world to benefit from. And we had the extreme honor of helping you bring that brand story together. So thank you for taking time out of your really busy schedules to be here to talk about how this all came together. And of course, our listeners are always curious a little bit about your backstory. We don't have 3 hours eating restaurant food here. So would you tell us a little bit about how you guys got together, a little bit about your background in the healthcare world?
Why don't you go first?
Sure. Thanks, Park. We're really grateful to be here and to have a little chance to walk down memory lane together and also look forward to where we want to go next. So I entered into the healthcare world very early on. I think I loved science, which is pretty nerdy to admit, and I knew I wanted to help people. I didn't know what that was going to turn into career-wise. I ended up discovering public health as an undergrad and decided that that was really my calling. So I went to study that in graduate school, and my focus has been on people who don't have access to primary care, prevention, really getting on the front end and helping people not be so sick and suffer. It's expensive. It takes up a lot of time. You feel miserable. And I think that that is still on the forefront for me every day in my career is how do we chip away at that and ease that suffering and that burden. And
you spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. working during the Obama administration.
I did.
What were you doing there?
So I'm a curious person. I'm a dabbler. So I've worked in the nonprofit sector. I've worked in the federal government. I've worked in the for-profit sector. And what you're referring to was a unique moment in history. I would call it the health policy Olympics, if you will. It was once in a lifetime opportunity to work in the Senate on the Affordable Care Act before it was named. It goes so far back. I was there when there were still bipartisan discussions happening and amendments being accepted. So clearly what played out in the media is a very different story than what was actually happening on the ground. But it was an amazing opportunity to see the intersection of policy, all of the data, things that we have learned from other countries and state models versus how it played out in politics. That was challenging emotionally as well as intellectually. And in the end, we're still debating the ACA and whether it will or won't be the law of the land. So it's pretty amazing. But it was an amazing opportunity to actually be there and watch lawmaking happen.
How long were you there working on that?
I don't even know what to call it, like blessing. You know, I had never worked on a campaign. I have no background in politics. I've never given to a campaign or anything like that. And I just knew I wanted to work on the policy side of the bill. And I happened to secure a 1-year fellowship. And the position was created whether a bill was going to pass or not. There was so much uncertainty at the time. And so I was there for just about a year, from markups in committees all the way through passage of the bill, amendment of the bill, and then the early rollout. And then I left because I knew that for me, the commitment to solving problems in public health had to come from the implementation. It was amazing to get a law passed, but it wasn't going to be enough. So I left and went to the Department of Health and Human Services to work on implementing a small piece of the law.
And where'd you go to school?
I did undergrad at University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I studied biopsychology, so I'm really into how our brains work and how we learn. I thought I was going to focus on mental health in some way with that kind of background. And then at Hopkins, where I went for graduate school, I studied health policy.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Shyam, you have really dedicated your life to spinal surgery and have become one of the world-renowned spinal surgeons, and we're blessed to have you here in Arizona. Can you take us back to a time when maybe you're a young man, a kid even, that you got that first curiosity, passion, interest in healthcare and spinal surgery?
Well, Park, thanks so much for saying that. Spinal surgery is an amazing field, and I have very gifted and incredibly hardworking colleagues. When I was a kid, I was born in the United States and I grew up here, but my parents used to take us back and forth to India to visit. And during those trips, sadly, was confronted by so much human suffering. And when you think about how fortunate we are here to have modern medicine, to have the applications of science to help people feel better. And this was, of course, 30 plus years ago that we used to go back and visit, where India had not have all the healthcare technology and infrastructure that it probably has now. But I remember seeing a child with polio and how it had stricken his spine. And as a result, he was completely paralyzed and unable to walk. And his spine was contorted into something that looked like a pretzel. The child was maybe 8 years old, and he was in severe pain, had this horrible deformity. I remember asking my parents what happened and why. And in retrospect, that was a really difficult question to ask your parents. And how do you respond to that? Why did that happen to him? But I remember taking something away from that experience and thinking I wanted to help people around me. And I really started to focus on the spine because of that. And fast forward many, many, many years later, I'm a spine surgeon, and I've been in practice for about 11 years now.
So you two have very accomplished healthcare careers from both sides of the aisle, I guess, when you look at it. And then one day something went down and it started this whole new journey in your life that kind of parallels everything else you're doing to bring this amazing product, Heirloom, to market. Can you take us to the origin story of this particular product?
Sure, I'll start that. Whenever you do spinal surgery, at the end of certain really high-risk operations, even if the patient still has a breathing tube in, or if they're still sleepy from anesthesia, you try to wake them up and you kind of yell at them and say, wiggle your toes, squeeze your hands. But it's a quick and dirty way of the spinal surgeon making sure that after this super high-risk surgery, somebody's not quadriplegic or paraplegic, that all their circuits are working fine and that they can move their arms and legs. And so every day that I was in surgery, Avni, my wife, she'd always text me and say, what's the wiggle status? And I would always text back and say wiggles, basically meaning, yes, all my post-operative patients today are wiggling. Everything went great. And so this was just our routine, where every day that I was in surgery, I'd always get a text saying, update on wiggle status. And I would text back, everybody's wiggling fine. And it turned into this playful pattern of, what's your wiggle status? How are things going? And one day when I had an especially challenging surgery day, I didn't get a text from her asking about the wiggle status. And I thought something had to be wrong. So I was concerned. So I picked up the phone and called her, and she didn't answer the phone. And I'm thinking, she didn't text, she didn't answer her phone. And during this whole time, she had been very sick. And so I thought that something had gone critically wrong with her health.
And Shyam, this was in Washington, D.C.? Because were you living in both places, Tucson and Washington, D.C., or was this when you were fully D.C.?
At that time, both of us lived in D.C. full time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were in. Avni was so sick that she really couldn't leave the house.
It became a little bit of like a Seinfeld joke, the bubble girl. That was not a compliment.
And it was allergies that were taking you down. Is that right?
Well, at the time, I don't think we really knew what it was. I had gone from being perfectly healthy. I mean, I was that person who got my teeth cleaned twice a year and got an eye checkup, and that was my interaction with the healthcare system. I spent my whole day obsessed about it on behalf of others, but I was not a patient, and it was such a luxury. And all of a sudden, everything went wrong. I was sick, and I had weird symptoms that fit together to just look like stress, fatigue, allergies, cold. I don't know. I mean, we just didn't know what it was.
And it just came out of nowhere?
Since we left Minnesota and moved back to DC, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when I worked on the Hill, I worked in the beautiful, historic, the oldest building on the Senate campus. And so I thought maybe it's mold from the carpets. I mean, it's so beautifully restored, but it's still a historic property. It was just a wild goose chase. I had lots of doctors, but I don't think we had answers. But it just kept getting worse. And it was seasonal. It was definitely seasonal. And this day in particular was in April. And I'm a pretty high energy person. I take good care of myself. And it was really bad because I literally couldn't get up the stairs to lay down in bed. Like I was that sick.
But I think by the time this had happened, we had determined that you were dealing with all these medications and side effects and so forth.
Right. Yeah, I was a regular. CVS would call and offer auto refill, and I would say, yes, please, make my life easy and deliver it. There was a point where being sick and being a patient just became normal. And I don't understand how that quickly happens, but anybody who's listening who has had a health issue kind of understands that it starts off like, that can't be me, and you're in the space of denial, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, and let me find ways to make it easier to just be here. And now that I'm so far away from it, looking at it, it's like wild to think that those things were normal. But yeah, I was taking way more of every medication than what the label says, with doctor's approval to do so. But like, I was out of options. Mm-hmm. I was maxed out on steroids, over the counter.
Were you also getting injections?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All of the above. Bless my doctor. He tried everything.
And how long were you on the meds?
Like everyday normal of Bizarro land, probably like 2.5 years.
So you came into this and you were working hard at DC and you were healthy leading up to this. And then it just kind of took you over. And so for 2.5 years, roughly, you were fighting this until the day when she didn't respond to your wiggle question.
Yes.
Right.
No
well,
wiggle
she didn't ask me what the wiggle status was. And then I called her and she wasn't responding. I thought something horrible has happened. So I jump in the car and I drive home as fast as I can. And I race up to see her in our condo, and I blow open the door, and she's lying on the floor. I run over towards her, and what happened? What's going on? What's wrong? You're not picking up your phone. And she was absolutely miserable.
I went everywhere in DC with my mobile pharmacy in my handbag, and I would buy my bags to be large enough to carry my EpiPen and multiple inhalers and, what became my normal. Like, you carry a laptop and you carry all these meds. I guess I started to adapt to all of it. And that day in particular, I came home. I didn't have a car, so I would walk, which means I was exposed to everything outside. And it just was too much. My body just couldn't take anymore. Now that I look back, I recognize I probably should have gone to the hospital because I was having some type of terrible asthma attack where I really couldn't get air in. Mm-hmm. But in the time, if anybody's gone through this, which is terrible, you really can't think. Like, you don't have enough oxygen to formulate your thoughts. And this is the intersection of public health and biopsych, right? Like, I know my prefrontal cortex is capable of doing, but it can't. I was just disabled. And I guess being that sick in that moment, I'm pretty self-sufficient. I can reason through things. I'm resourceful. I think it was the most damsel I've ever been in my life. Like, I literally just looked at him, couldn't get words out, and just begged him to help me.
So, Shyam, you had been in surgery all day. She wasn't responding. You go home, blow into the condo, and you find her laying on the floor. What kind of condition was Avni in?
She was definitely sick. And I think more than anything, she was exasperated, exhausted, and defeated by what she was suffering from. And so the next thing I asked her, of course, I'm playing doctor. I'm like, did you take this medication? Yes. Did you take this medication? Yes, twice. Did you take that medication? Yes, yes, and yes. Because, of course, I was thinking, well, maybe she hadn't taken all her medications that day, or something had gotten missed, or maybe there was a dose that she ran out of, but she had taken all her medications. And then as I started talking to her more and more and asking her what was wrong and what she was feeling, what I realized is that she was also suffering from the side effects of the stuff that was supposed to be helping her, and that was helping her. I mean, don't get me wrong, those meds kept you breathing.
Yeah.
And
I was able to hold on to my job.
But I think the medications themselves were causing side effects and other problems. And that was probably affecting you that day more than anything. I think that's why you felt so terrible.
I don't know. I mean, I had never had such little air, despite having been sick for so long. This was the worst of it. And yeah, for the first time in my life, I didn't think there was a way out of being that sick.
And do you remember what you said to Shyam when he was leaning over you?
Yeah, I said something to the effect, and it's still embarrassing because I really don't like asking for help. I like to be the helper, but he was in his clothes from the hospital. So he's in his scrubs and his white coat, and he looks the part of doctor. And I had never leaned on him to be my doctor. But I looked at him and I said, "You help so many people. Why can't you help me?" And I didn't realize at the time that I put this burden on my husband to save me, which was really unfair, and I'm sorry. But I was that sick. I just thought, well, we've followed the traditional route of being a patient and allowing others to find the solution. And despite all that was there, it wasn't enough, or it wasn't right.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most difficult moments of my life, because that day or that week in surgery, I had taken a tumor off of somebody's spinal cord. I think that particular day there was a patient of mine who had a horrible cervical fracture where it was compressing his spinal cord, and I decompressed his spinal cord and stabilized his cervical spine, and the surgery went perfect. And after the surgery, he was moving his arms and legs. And so it was a pretty good day, a pretty good week up until that. And then I realized that I had done all this amazing work, and yet my wife was laying on the floor asking me for help, and I was absolutely useless.
Now, I know, having known both of you for a few years now, you both take on great challenges. I think you seek out challenges. So, Shyam, was this one of your biggest challenges in all of your studies, to try to figure out how to help Avni in this situation?
It was. I had aced every single class in medical school.
And we're talking Harvard and Mayo Clinic.
I did my medical school training. I did a 6-year combined program. So I did undergrad, instead of in 4 years, I did it in 2 years. And then I did medical school in 4 years. But I graduated with my undergrad degree and MD degree in a total of 6 years. So I graduated medical school at the age of 23, and I went to school at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And then I did most of my surgical training at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Surgical training is very difficult. Medical school is challenging, but I was always up to the challenge. When Avni was in this state of vulnerability, exasperation, exhaustion, it affected me in a way, because I thought, I've got to find a way to help support her, to support her immune system so that she doesn't feel this way anymore. It was I'm going to use the word traumatic. It was as traumatic to me as seeing the 8-year-old boy with polio when I was a kid in India. And it was just as traumatic to me to see my wife, who I was absolutely helpless in making better that day. And so it turned into a mission, like a call to action. It turned into something that I needed to use my energy, my focus, and my time for. And this was all about 10 years ago. So it got my wheels turning, and I knew I had a problem that I needed to solve.
And you must have had some cognitive dissonance going on here too, because of all your formal medical training. And Avni was on all the regular formal type drugs, and you realize now that the traditional route wasn't going to work for her.
Yeah, we had her plugged in with the best doctors in Washington, D.C. for what she was dealing with. And what I decided was that there had to be another way. There had to be another option. There had to be a way to support her immune system without it having such a cost to her ability to function.
So what'd you do?
So I decided to take matters in my own hands.
Big surprise there. Huh?
I went back to cell biology and biochemistry, started scouring the journals for how the immune system worked, and it's extraordinarily complicated. It's like thousands of different dominoes moving in multiple different directions, and there's all these different chemical mediators and compounds. And for the immune system, it's all about balance and support. And what I wanted to know was there a way to create an optimal setting of balance or an optimal way to support healthy functioning of the immune system. And so as I started going back to cell biology and biochemistry, I started going deep into journal articles in biochemistry, nutritional science, plant science, immunobiologic pathways. And what I found was there was an entire group or pathway that modern medicine had either neglected or overlooked or hadn't completely studied yet, that was an alternate way of supporting the immune system and an alternate way of using bioflavonoids or plant-based compounds to support the complicated immune system.
To support a healthy immune system.
Exactly.
And how you can bring it back into balance.
Yeah.
So you started down this road of looking into this. How long did it take for, where you started pulling together, different concoctions at this point for Avni?
Yeah, from start to finish, about 7 years.
And what was your pharmacy?
So it's hard to get a hold of different plant-based compounds if you're looking outside of Western medicine. And so what I would try to do is work backwards. I'd find certain plant-based compounds like the bioflavonoids quercetin, for example, which is found in onions and it's found in the skins of an apple peel, and tried to find where you could source those. And sometimes it was from select health and supplement and nutrition stores. Other times you would find something like quercetin at Whole Foods. But the idea was, where can I find these plant-based bioflavonoids so that I could try to put them together in a way that would optimize immune function and bring her back to balance?
I think it was interesting because I couldn't leave the house, right? So, and I didn't have a car. So Shyam, I would make a list of groceries and he would go to the store to buy them. And at this point, I've been a vegetarian almost my whole life. So we were, pretty far down the plant-based, all natural, organic road. And because I couldn't leave the house to even go out to eat anymore, like fun, young life in DC did not exist for the bubble girl. So I became a cook. I started learning how to cook and I would send Shyam out to get groceries and he would be taking forever to come back. And I thought, well, is traffic really bad? Like what happened? But it would end up that he would take a detour and spend like an hour in the supplements aisle and come home with bottles.
And you're talking about places like Whole Foods and Sprouts?
Yeah, exactly. At the natural stores. And, I think both of us came from traditional, I'm using in air quotes, Western scientific backgrounds. I mean, how many research methods courses have we taken? We understand the importance of sample size and randomized and, all these factors that lead us to understand information the way we do. What works? Well, I want to understand the source and how did they come up with that? And what were the limitations in that in order for me to come to a conclusion on, yes, that does work, or that's just a fluke study that says that you can drink 5 cups of coffee and it'll make you get taller, right? I mean, there's all kinds of claims being made about all kinds of things and under the guise of science when it really isn't. So we're discerning. And so I'm kind of surprised that this guy's coming home with supplements and nothing exists. What he's done with all of his journal readings is try to determine where further up that domino pattern he can stop the dominoes from falling. And he identifies these channels in the immune system and then is trying to figure out, well, what natural plant can modulate that so that the domino doesn't fall? And can I make a combination of all of those so that none of those dominoes fall? And this is how he's explaining it to me because I'm not a physician. And I'm thinking, that's awesome. Can you do that? I have no idea how complicated it's going to be. And he doesn't know how complicated it's going to be because at this point we've figured out like this should exist. These are pretty well known. I mean, there are studies on these products. These ingredients have been used for, centuries across the world. There's enough spattering of things, legitimate things, findings and studies that you think that this exists. Mm-hmm. We're not discovering something uncharted here. We're just trying to find the right product in a bottle. And then we realize it actually doesn't exist. Shyam starts cutting these supplements. Like we have a little pill factory at the end of the kitchen counter and he's putting together combinations. And he asks me, he's like, listen, we're all for this, good of science and, like organ donors and all that. But like, are you willing to be studied a little bit. And I'm like, it's plants. Like, this is what I eat. I'm a vegetarian. Like, why would I be worried? And of course, I read all the studies myself to like determine what is the appropriate dose of, is there like, can you max out on turmeric or can you max out on grapeseed? And, so we're within reason here. And I started trying it and I feel so much better.
It just so you would bring these supplements home, pull them apart, and like an alchemist, kind of put them back together in a new like mashup of supplements, trying different things to see what would have an impact.
Yeah, and it was based on reading literature, whether it's biochemistry, bioflavonoid literature, but then I would have to find that ingredient, and some of them you could find at a natural foods or Whole Foods or a supplement store. And then the combination, putting those together and having her take it. And I kind of felt like, wait a minute now, am I experimenting on her in a way that I shouldn't be? But the good news is that with these compounds, we knew what the maximum safe dose is for all of these for humans based on their longstanding availability. And some of them are used for other reasons. For example, turmeric has been a part of the diet in the Indian subcontinent for centuries. And so we know what the safety profile is of a lot of these different compounds. And so I had asked her, if she'd be open to trying it to see if there was a way that it might help support her immune system. And your response was, well, what do I have to lose?
I was really sick. So, I mean, I empathize with people who are out on the internet, like scouring, looking for that miracle pill, because I became that person. I would have tried almost anything, but fortunately I had like a really smart and caring person as my, doctor in this alchemy project that we were doing. But I think there's a piece of like wanting hope, but also understanding the basis of it. It wasn't like snake oil.
So you started feeling better. You were patient one, basically, for this. And then what happened? You started getting the attention of family and friends and like saying, what are you taking or what's working?
Yeah. So, Park, you've known us for a while. I don't really like attention and like talking about myself in places, right? I can talk about my issues, what I care about all day long. But I was back to work and I was kind of like rocking and rolling again. And that became the story. Everybody's asking me at work, like, wow, what did you change your meds? Do you have a new doctor? What are you doing?
Because I remember you telling me, too, that your workplace was pretty dynamic and you had to really be on top of your game because you were working with a lot of really brilliant people. And I think one time you said to Shyam, these meds I'm on are making me dumber.
Yeah, I was not sharp. I think that...
You had like a persistent mental fog.
Which is a common side effect to a lot of allergy meds.
I mean, if you've had the flu or, you're just groggy and you think, okay, I might be able to like shred documents today or clear some emails, but thoughtful activities you just put off because you're not feeling well.
Mm-hmm.
That just became like months of my life. I had to put off things that were intellectually challenging. And I love that kind of work. I love thinking about things in new ways and solving complicated problems. So I wasn't signing up to be on work groups. I was leaning back in my career because of my health. And I never thought that could happen, especially in my early 30s.
But now you were back and people were like, she's back. What happened?
Yeah. And it's like these little broken granules on a spoon at the end of my counter. Like, I don't know. I can't believe this is working as well as it is. And, all of this in consultation with my physician, my Western trained specialist, who's like, yeah, intuitively, this all seems fine. And you would be getting all of this from plants anyway. And let's try it. He's shocked. And there's empirical tests, for asthma where you breathe into something and you have like numbers of like how much air capacity you have. My numbers are improving. It's not just how I think I feel. Because, this is an act of love. Let's be honest. My husband is going to all this trouble for me. Maybe it's a placebo. We're science geeks, right? We're going to ask ourselves this. But no, my doctor is telling me like, hey, whatever you're doing, it's working. And at this point, I should step back a minute. Like, we don't have pets. We don't have carpet. We have super high quality air filters. Like, we've done all of those things to try to maximize my wellness without medication. I already did all that. And that still wasn't enough. And then we have the specialist on board and I'm maxed out on everything off label. That's still not enough. So to have a few plants make such a difference. I still didn't believe. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I thought
you had to be skeptical about it because it's not something you were trained in.
Yeah.
Right. And when you started to feel better, I was like, oh, you must have changed one of your other medications. And she actually said, no, I actually not taking them.
Well, I cut back.
I
cut back to like what you're supposed to be taking. So I was on double the dose of oral and nasal steroids. And, my doctor would warn me, in addition to the side effects I could tell in the moment, he's like, long term, these things haven't been studied on fertility. I mean, like scary stuff that you're just like, wait, I didn't consent to those doors being closed for me because I have a lot of allergies. Like, this is wild.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have allergies. You don't think that this is like a serious chronic disease like diabetes. But for me and the way that my body was going haywire, it was. In my mind, I just thought allergies is like a few sniffles. Like, this isn't serious. It's totally disrupting my life, but it's not serious. It wasn't until I started to feel better that I could reason my way back into like, whoa, and read the fine print on my meds and think, can I have I don't want to make this choice. It was almost like it was obligatory to take those things just to, quote, function, even though I wasn't functioning as myself, as opposed to making a choice of how to feel better without all of that.
And so people saw you benefiting from this, and did they then come and start asking for, can I have whatever you're having?
Yes.
Can I take some?
DC's on a swamp. I love it there, and it's a home for me in many, many sentimental ways. My career still takes me back to DC regularly, but a lot of people are dealing with what I was dealing with.
Yeah. So it was...
So they all wanted it.
It was interesting. They're like, well, tell your husband to concoct a few more of those. So I want to try it. And so she came home and she told me that. And I said, hon, we've got this little experiment going for you, but I can't test this out on other people.
Well, and as a reasonable physician, you're like, this is not my specialty. This is not.
Yeah, this is, this was just to make you feel better. And by the way, I'm not comfortable with you having stopped your medication. You need to get back on it. So I was uncomfortable with the fact that you had these folks that were kind of asking you for it. And I wasn't going to share it because I didn't.
But you did. And people started using it then, and it started helping them, right?
Yeah. I still thought for a while that maybe it was helping her, but maybe it was just helping her. And what was interesting is that people kept asking for it, and then other people started asking for it and saying, you don't understand, this is helping me too.
So over a course of 4 or 5 years, you had a number of people that were taking this concoction, this casserole of nutrition to help them overcome allergy season and other things. And
yes. But like not just seasonal, right? There would be like the friend of somebody who all of a sudden noticed, hey, you stopped taking your inhaler. Like, what are you doing? Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that a lot of us, this is before social media really took off, but word of mouth is powerful. And, we all want to try what somebody else has found to be successful. And so we had people who were like, oh, this is great for dust allergies, or this is helping me get over a cold faster. I mean, it just gets your immune system to not go out of whack, right? Like elementally, that's what it's doing. So we can insert in all of these ailments as we know them, diagnoses, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you just want your immune system to not freak out and to be in balance so that you don't suffer, this can help.
Mm-hmm. And you then decide to bring this to market, not so much to become filthy rich on it, but you just felt like the world need to know about this, that there was a safer, you felt, way of combating seasonal distress.
Yeah, I think I've kind of pushed for that. In public health, so medicine and public health are kind of at odds sometimes. And we met when I was in grad school and he was in medical school. And so we've had this little banter back and forth since we've known each other of, he helps one patient at a time. They come in and he helps them. He tangibly helps them. It's like literally a fracture in the morning and it's fixed by the evening. But in public health, we try to help lots of people with one intervention. So if you think about seatbelts or flu shots, there are a lot of examples of one thing that can help lots of people. And so for me, this became not about me being able to discontinue medicines that weren't helping me as well as this could help me.
And maybe have some significant side effects that you hadn't signed up for.
Well, that's just it. I think that science is so helpful, but there's a lot we don't know. And there's a lot of reasons we don't know it, right? The limitations on funding, the way that you can design a study ethically. There's so many factors. Getting people to sign up to be in studies, having diverse pools of patients, controlling for a lot of variables that are complicated in today's society. It's hard to study things with that rigor. And that doesn't mean that we won't find truth from that question. We just can't study it in the way that science expects us to be able to publish it. So I think for me, the public health, like thinking of what if plants could help so many people? Like, it's not really that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't exist anywhere. Isn't it our obligation to offer it? If people don't want it, they don't want it. But shouldn't we offer a choice? Like, to me, it just kept coming down to, it's not a product. We didn't really start a company. We're not like supplements people. I just wanted to give people a choice to feel better without all the other stuff, the baggage of side effects.
Yeah. And so you came to us one day, thank God. And we have so enjoyed working with you because of your backstory. When we first heard this origin story, we were blown away. Two brilliant people in the healthcare world from, really from all different facets of it, and what you had to overcome yourself and found a different way, a way that you weren't trained on. And you said, and I remember one time, I think, Shyam, you had even said to me that, I've studied all this medicine and surgery. I never really thought about supplements. They never really entered my world that much as something that could really be helpful until you dove deep into this. And you were like, wow, there's actually something to this.
I actually had to shift my thinking on this because I'm a regimented Western medicine trained spine surgeon. And everything I do is evidence-based. There's a research paper or an article and evidence that backs up the surgical decisions I make, the surgical techniques I use, or in cases where I don't do surgery, there's also evidence that backs up why surgery is not a good option for a certain problem. This development of Heirloom was a real curveball. Because I thought, okay, this works for Avni. And now there's all these people that keep asking me to make them some because it's helping them, but it's not a medication. Just to be clear, unless it's a medication, you shouldn't be using it to diagnose or treat a medical condition. That's when Avni turned to me and said, all you're doing is supporting the natural function of my own immune system. The curveball for me, though, was looking at this alternate pathway of trying to help her feel better. And it was a challenge. Yeah.
So you came to us and you've got these 5 ingredients, and I'm sure by now the listeners are like, what's in it? So real quick, I'm going to rattle off the 5. And then if you could come back and just tell us what each one of those does and why it's in there. So you have quercetin, grapeseed extract, bromelain, butterbur root extract, and turmeric. First one, quercetin. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Quercetin.
Yes, you did. Quercetin is an antioxidant flavonoid that's found in many fruits and vegetables, usually in the peel. And what it does is it supports a healthy histamine response in the body. So rather than things being overly active, it kind of helps calm things down. Mm-hmm. I could go into some really complex biochemistry, but it'll make everybody go to sleep.
Well,
so that's the best.
I'll just show them the video we shot of you in our conference room trying to explain this to us. And we were like, all right.
Eyes glazed over.
Yeah. Grapeseed extract.
So we all know grape seeds, although when we eat grapes nowadays, we don't seem to get them anymore because all the grapes we consume have been genetically modified or bred so that way they don't have seeds anymore. But grape seeds have really high concentrations of bioflavonoids, something specific called proanthocyanidins. I'll stop now because I'm getting looks from you guys. But basically, those bioflavonoids help the body's immune system function closer to normal and less stressed when exposed to certain irritants that you might find in the air.
So they kind of like put the boxing gloves on for your immune system. And so when the irritants are coming in, they kind of help ward them off a little bit and keep that balance as best possible.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to explain it in kind of a layperson's approach.
Bromelain, what about that?
Bromelain is an enzyme that comes from pineapple stems, and it helps when people have swelling and pain in the nose and sinuses. Bromelain is used in South American cultures for many years for their traditional healing, but we found that it has significant healing properties.
That you're able to use in heirloom. And then you've got butterbur root extract.
Yeah, and butterbur has been used by human beings for over 2,000 years. And what the butterbur does is it helps stabilize the mast cell, which can be one of the main offenders when it comes to the stress that comes during difficult seasons.
And then finally, turmeric.
Turmeric is consumed heavily in South Asia. It's a spice, it's a medicinal herb as well. And it helps by lifting the fog that occurs with stressful times of year and when the immune system seems to be out of whack.
I've got to comment at this point too. It's hard to talk about this stuff because you can't make any claims. It's always about supporting this and supporting that. And it's just the way the FDA works and what we're all up against when you're trying to promote, an all natural supplement. So it's hard to talk about. I mean, we can't talk about the A word when we're talking about your product.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's probably with good measure. There is an entire standardized process for drugs to be cleared for use in the United States, and that is to maximize safety for patients and to ensure that when a physician prescribes a medication, that it's going to generally help the patient and have few side effects. And supplements don't necessarily, they don't go through that process. And so trying to make a medical claim for a supplement, then it's number one, it's illegal. You can't do that. And it's for the safety of the consumer. Of course, the problem is that when you try to take a remedy and turn it into a medication, it has to go through a very expensive, lengthy FDA approval process. And that can cost tens of millions of dollars. So if there's an alternate pathway to use plant-based ingredients that have been around for millennia to help support your body.
And to do so like in different ways, right? So yes, to be compliant with the FDA and FTC, and I'm a former federal employee, so I deeply understand the regulatory world and appreciate its need. We keep coming back to support your immune system, but they're working in different ways. And when you put them together, that's what made it such a dramatic solution for me. It's not one little thing that works in one way versus all of the allergens that were out in April in DC that year. It's multifactorial, and I think that the science behind it is powerful, and I'm living proof of it. But the challenge of being able to talk about it in a way that doesn't mislead people, because supplements aren't the same, and they don't go through the same process.
It's a team of 5 plant-based ingredients coming together to provide immune balance when things are extremely out of whack.
Yeah, stressful. And it could be, cold and flu. It's not just the A word that we can't talk about. That was my story. That was my slice of it. But I think going back to elemental of, these are things that I can eat and cook with, right? Grapeseed. I mean, now people are using grapeseed oil because it has a higher smoke point. So these are not strange things that, I would be nervous to take myself or to share with friends and family as we have over all these years. But I think that our diets have changed. I think our lifestyles have gotten busier, and things like seeds and fruits and peels on fruits are things that are just not consumed in the high quantity anymore. So from a public health perspective, when we talk about allergies and asthma rates have increased over time and all these other ailments have increased, is it that our screening is better, we're detecting it better, more people are getting diagnosed, or is it that things have changed in the environment, including our diet? We don't really know. But at the end of the day, like, we probably should be eating those peels and those seeds, and it's what all animals have done and our ancestors have done. And so going back to basics has been a really powerful solution for me, at least.
Well, when you came to us and we started looking at this and thought, okay, we need to develop a brand narrative around this product, and we didn't have a name yet. We landed on Heirloom. And we got first your backstory, which we loved, and we started doing a lot of digging and thought, okay, so what's this market look like? Only to find out we pulled up 1.2 million hits or something like that on Google. I mean, it was madness of the allergy, the supplements out there to help balance your immune system. And so we did a lot of talking, and your backstory, your origin story had a huge impact on the positioning of this product. What I want to do quickly is, as we went through that whole study, we went through the story cycle system with you. And Avni, we hadn't met you yet. I think you were still in DC doing a lot of work. So we were sitting with Shyam and going through this. And I remember when the day I called you up and I said, here's what we think your positioning was. And you were like, yes, it was so who you both were as we were just getting to know you. But I want to quickly read through, and this is out of Lockheed's playbook, the guy that is all Christopher Lockheed, who has done this category design work in technology and Silicon Valley that I think was really powerful. And we thought, well, let's give it a try on Heirloom, what would become Heirloom. And I remember sitting down and we walked through this with you slide by slide. And I just like to read it for our listeners because it's helped with all of the information we got using the story cycle down to what does this product actually stand for. But before we do that, I want to take a break for our good friends over at Sendable. And when we come back, I'll take you through the brand narrative we crafted to help create the unique category design for Heirloom, which was competing in a very congested market. So we'll cover that right after this. Many of you have been following me in the business of story on social media for a while now, and I really appreciate it. And if you're not, I hope you will. We share valuable business storytelling tips to help your brand stand out among the awful noise out there. And we do it all thanks to Sendable, a social media management platform that helps over 3,000 digital agencies worldwide to work with their clients, breathe life into their brands, and get their stories heard on social media. What we like about Sendable is they make it super easy to manage your content and your stories online. They allow you to source content from clients and collaborate closely with them to create a social media strategy built on true and proven storytelling principles. You can reliably plan and schedule content to be automatically published to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and more. And you can demonstrate the impact that this content has had on your audience growth and conversion by reaching out through their in-depth reporting and analytics. There's much, much, much more that you can do. But you know what? I think maybe my favorite feature has to be Smart Posts functionality. Now, what Smart Posts are is it makes it incredibly easy to craft social media content and in one single step, customize it for each platform, giving you the best chance of driving engagement and getting people to pay attention to your content. Sendable truly makes managing so many channels an absolute breeze. I know, you have a lot of choices when it comes to social media management apps, so I wanted to let you know we here at the Business of Story can't recommend Sendable enough. Gavin and his team are so great that they have a special offer just for you. You can now get, as a special offer for Business of Story listeners, Sendable's Traction Plan for only $69 a month. That's a 30% savings. So sign up now at sendable.com/Park30. Believe me, your stories will take off. Welcome back to the Business of Story. I'm Park Howell, and with me are Avni and Shyam Shridharani, and we are covering the creation of the Heirloom brand story. Now, what I want to share with you is the narrative that we created. This is not marketing. This is just a piece that we created to help build the platform for their brand story. So even though you're going to hear the A word in here, we are making no product claims because none of this is going to market. So I just want, if in case the FDA is listening, we are not making any product claims here. But this is how we got our head around the design of the heirloom category. How many times do you breathe each day? About 20,000 inhales and exhales. And that's not always easy if you suffer from airborne irritants. Some 50 million Americans do, 75% of which still rely on over-the-counter medications. But they don't realize that these drugs are often ineffective and could be making them even sicker. WebMD lists 34 side effects to common allergy meds in a web search of one category of OTC drugs. And these include dry mouth, drowsiness, itching, irritability, and nightmares. But they don't mention what other studies have found, that prescription and OTC allergy drugs can lead to cognitive impairment, including a lowered IQ and potential increases in dementia and Alzheimer's. When it comes to understanding the true impacts of seasonal meds, Americans are suffering from a severe case of mental mucus. Until now, introducing Heirloom for conscious relief from respiratory stress. Heirloom is the smartest all-natural support for your immune system when the seasons flare up, with the most potent herbal supplement formulation designed for people mindful toward their mind and body. It's small batch, fresh relief centered on clearing the air about what environmental and big pharma impacts have on you, so you can inhale a healthy dose of life again. So we got on that call that one day, Shyam. I remember you were down in Tucson at the time, and I said, after looking at all this, we have to design a category. It can't be just a supplement to help you get through these seasonal challenges because there's just too much competition out there. And so we really looked at the wellness world, the mindfulness world, the yoga world. And I remember you saying, well, that's actually who we are. It's a representative of the people that what you're all about. And I couldn't think of a more powerful background for a product than something that is the exact expression of who you are and your origin story about how it all came about. But the biggest challenge we had is at the time you didn't want to talk about this story. You didn't want to share this story with the world. We felt it was one of the strongest things you could do to bring this to market because of the authenticity in it and the fact that you didn't go out and get investors. You have funded this solely yourself just because, as you had told us, you felt like the world just simply needed to know about it. You already have great careers. You make money doing other things. You weren't about the money coming out of it. You need the money to support it and keep it going. But it was a much, much bigger purpose to help, on one hand, educate the world about what these over-the-counter meds can do to you if you're not careful. And yet that's really some of the only options you have unless you start diving deep into understanding what supplements will work for you. And you did all that heavy lifting and you tested it with friends and family and coworkers and said, this works. It's time to bring it to the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think you couldn't have said it better. I never set out to be an entrepreneur. That's definitely not something I'm good at. And so it's interesting to kind of come into something, to find a solution to a problem that we care about. And that it's not a solution for everyone. We recognize the limitations and that, of course, we're always going to say, and we deeply believe in consultation with your physician or healthcare provider. That said, we're a country built on choice and freedom. And yet, as a person who was sick, I didn't feel like I had choice or freedom to find alternatives, to find a better way. And so, yeah, I think we were reluctant to come forward because I think in many ways we didn't want to discredit our own careers, our own scientifically validated backgrounds.
Yeah, isn't that a bit of a shame though? Because you do have these scientifically validated backgrounds. You both are really brilliant people that are on this planet to help other people. And you found a way to do that outside of the norm. And yet totally understandably.
Yeah.
that you're like, well, we can't do it quite yet because you were, I guess, fearful it might impact your careers or your standing in some way, which think of how that impacts the rest of the world just because we pigeonhole ourselves. No fault of your own. It's just the society we live in.
I think that you've articulated really well the conflicts that we've had internally about whether or not we bring heirloom to the world. And I remember when Avni said, Shyam, you've got to share this with people. And I said, no, this was just designed for you. And I'm grateful that you are so much better off because of it. And let's just quit right there. And then when people wouldn't leave me alone because they wanted it, and then when Avni talked about, well, maybe we should bring this to market. Maybe we should share this with the world. And I said, this isn't really part of my mission or purpose. I'm a spine surgeon. I work day and night, and people break their neck when they get in a horrible car accident or they fall off a building or something terrible happens. And that's my mission and purpose, is to help people that way. And she said, well, why isn't your mission and purpose to help everybody who suffers the way I used to? I had to think about that, because she said, if you're here, and both of us are in fields where we're here to make the world a better place, where we're truly here to help those around us, she made a great point, which is, if you're here to make the world a better place, how could you not help those folks who want another option at trying to help support their immune system and feel better?
Well, and at some point, I think that pressure of friends and family started to play out a different ethical debate within myself. So yeah, I didn't want to put myself out there. I didn't want to put Shyam's career out there on the line and, put in our whole life savings. I mean, it's a huge risk to do. And it wasn't really for us. I already had what I needed. And then I started
likewise,
thinking,
my career in spine surgery is great. I really don't need any more.
You didn't need to be a formulator and bring to market a brand new product to see if you can make that work.
And learn about marketing and social media and web design and all these competencies that I never had and didn't think I was going to develop. But
not to mention manufacturing and distributing,
and regulation and all of it.
And then when you open up the supplement industry and you realize that there is such a wide range of quality and integrity. And then, I remember thinking, I'm not sure I want to dip my toe in that water. And then us saying, well, what if we brought our standards, our quality, our integrity, our excellence into heirloom and into how it's manufactured and how the ingredients are sourced and how we have it tested. And then we thought, well, you know what? That's impactful. When you have a supplement that meets your standard, when you have an option for people who are miserable certain times a year, it kind of, the thinking evolved as we went through this.
And I would say, I think I just kept coming back to, so if we don't do this, okay, cool. We're safe and we can invest our money the way traditional people do. And, we can pursue the careers that we thought we wanted to and that are fulfilling. But what happens to everybody that we know? I'm personally accountable. These are people in my life. I'm just going to let them take the other stuff that I don't take anymore. Knowing that there are these studies and these long-term effects and all the questions we have not yet asked and therefore have not yet answered. I felt responsible. If I don't do it, am I causing harm to these people and to the world for not offering a choice? So do we stick our neck out there and cause harm to ourselves potentially? Or do we do nothing and allow others to be harmed? And not to say that existing over-the-counter medications are bad or harmful. It is for people that were like me, that were everyday off-label, doubling the use, extreme cases, except that there's probably more and more people like that or other conditions. And again, at the end of the day, are we really sticking our neck out there? We're just telling people, hey, there's an option that has plants, things that grow in the ground, and doing it our way. It's sourced in the US. It's organic. It's third-party tested, because there are bad actors. There's a reason that there is regulation. There's the few bad people who put something in a bottle and they don't follow the guidelines and they do make claims that they can cure things and they're misleading and harming people. So we've just thought if we go at the highest level of integrity and come at this as a true offering for wellness, maybe we won't have this conflict within ourselves. Maybe we will never make money, but maybe we will not have this conflict. And that's what we agreed on.
I think even harder than the biochemistry and the cell biology and me thinking through the complex immune pathways was this step of it is, do you create a company? Do you take significant financial risk? Do you market yourself? Do you not market yourself? And those challenges were rough. And I think for me, it was, or trying to answer those questions was tough. And then, when we had done a test run, what was interesting is that the people that knew about Heirloom who were using it kept gobbling up all our test run. And they said, well, I'm just going to take this. I said, no. This is our test run. We're going to see how this goes. And they said, yeah, that's great. Thanks. I'm taking my bottle. And then they'd come back and take 2 bottles and then 3 bottles. And I realized, okay, if you want to change the world, if you want to help people feel better, you're going to have to jump in.
And here you are today. And we're all the luckier for it. So I'm looking at your bottle here right now, and I want to give a tip of the hat to Luis Medina, who's
amazing
creative director I've worked with for many, many years when I had my own agency going, and he now has Noble Candy, and he and I do a lot of work together still. I'm very thankful for that. And the logo, the name that came together, the tagline, because we could only use mere puffery. That's what they call it. I mean, we can't talk about that allergies. So Heirloom is the conscious seasonal wellness. For conscious seasonal wellness. And I love the line that Luis put together below that, the mindful person's all-natural, pharma-free choice to maintain a healthy immune and respiratory system. And I think the tagline, or one of the lines we've used that came from that, is Heirloom, inhale a healthy dose of life. Mere puffery.
Yeah. Right.
But we're trying to let people know emotionally what this product stands for. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story. Where can people buy Heirloom?
Wow, thank you, Park. We are a very small business. So
I'm looking at it right here.
Yeah, you are. Exactly. So we have a website, and that's where all of our sales are managed and where folks can get lots more information. So it's Heirloom Supplement. That's AIRLOOM supplement.com. And we are not working with large distribution channels. Like, we are so small and homegrown. So we really appreciate folks checking us out and giving us feedback.
Absolutely. And I have to also give a tip of the hat to Marissa Hill.
Absolutely.
Who is doing a terrific job with you in community building and SEO and helping you push the product out. Marissa was another person that worked for me once upon a time at Park & Co. And she handles all of my work at Business of Story for building our community and SEO. So she does amazing work, and she's done a great job for you as well.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, when I think about, and I know we're just about to end, but Park, when I think about what you and your team have done, is you have allowed us to stay true to ourselves, true to our mission, and allowed us to create an authentic brand and an authentic product. Because I think when most people work with marketers, the idea is creating something that's easy to push as fast as possible, that might even water down the current standards. And I think what I appreciated from you and your team is that you guys embraced the challenge of marketing a supplement with integrity and doing it legally and lawfully. But then on top of that, embracing what we stand for, which is wellness, authenticity, integrity, doing the right thing, giving people a choice, and then making the world a better place. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for that. That's very nice.
Thank you, Park.
I appreciate you being here. I know how swamped your schedules are. So, and it's only taken me about a year to get you into the studio. So it's so awesome to finally have you here. And I'd like to thank you all for listening to this edition. Listen, if you know of someone who is suffering from seasonal wellness, is trying to inhale a healthy dose of life, by all means, have them check out Heirloom and share this episode with them, because you know, how often do you actually get to hear from the formulators, the manufacturers, the test patient A on an amazing product that is really helping a lot of people out there. So share this episode with them, and certainly go to heirloomsupplement.com. And of course, if I can help you in your brand storytelling, visit me over at businessofstory.com. And of course, once you get those stories pulled together and you want to push them out to the world, you must work with our friends at Sendable. They do an incredible job with the business of storytelling online, with the dashboards and the metrics and everything we need to be powerful out there. So thank you for listening, and join us again next Monday when we will have another amazing set of story artists like Shyam and Avni with us. And until then, remember that the most potent story you will ever tell is the story you tell yourself. So make it a great one. Thanks for listening.